anymore.
Not
Right.
So if you
love your pet,
well, how about your
Yeah.
child that's suffering, who's just lost, schoolmates, their home, everything they've ever known, and maybe their pet is literally their only lifeline to a sense of normalcy.
of course.
And
You don't love
So-
anything more than your children and your pets. I mean, that's
yeah, so these
Right.
people are now being offered tent cities, like in just different locations here. I mean, I just saw a post the other day that said, I have a yard that I all put pets, people in tents and pets. So these are real things that people are dealing with right now. Okay, we have to live in a tent because, well, there is a hotel in Kahului that will take them, but if their child
Only
is
one.
going to school in
Down
Lahaina,
here, right.
I mean, there's only logistically, how can people function and make their life work? So,
right.
I mean, it's just insanity.
And there's no exposure for this information on the
Right.
media. This
It's
is not something that. When's the
No.
last time that the mayor had a press conference or a town hall meeting or talked about any of these
Not a
issues?
word.
The Bisson is missing.
Ooh, I never heard that.
This one is missing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Bisson
Got
is
that
missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that he just put out a proposal for some type of incentive to get people to rent their short-term condos
Saw that.
as long-term condos. I didn't find the post yet, but when you only get 300 views on your social media posts, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's
Shelby said it's a slippery slope on that stuff as well. So it shouldn't be. I mean,
They're going to incentivize them at least now to rent to fire victims, but it's also kind of scary when we say, eminent domain on a private property just because there's a need. They created the disaster, and now there's also a need to appropriate more land to help survivors, and that's also kind of a slippery slope when we just give the government the ability to seize any home or property that they
Yeah.
deem a need.
everyone deserves a nice, clean roof over their head. And I think that there is plenty of land to put a decent housing until these folks get back on their land. However, they're not going to be getting back on their land if they can't pay their mortgage payment, and they can't. No one I know on Maui can afford to live in two households at the same time.
right.
Period. Yeah, and most of those people probably lost their vehicles, so they had to get a vehicle to take their children to school and to get to the grocery store. And I mean, it's a disaster upon a disaster upon a disaster. Yeah, and it's all to weed out everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the best way we can prevent these people from being successful,
Yeah.
how would you summarize that in three steps? Those are three things that you would encourage the audience to do to help. Because I'm all about like action steps and solutions and what's the next step to make this not happen. How can we fight this thing? Because it seems like nothing is really going our way so far, right? I mean, it kind of feels like it's worse than what I thought would have happened.
Yeah.
So what can we do collectively as
People are burning out on it, and they want that. They
Right.
want us to all give up over, after
Right.
so much time of not being heard and no action.
Right.
Yeah.
So if they start out by reading your book, they'll have a good sense of what happened
Yeah,
and some of the
I
questions.
would definitely start with collecting your
How about
thoughts
you?
of and getting to a place where you understand what happened the day of the fire and the recovery process after, and that alone will probably get you going. But
Step one.
that step one is the knowledge of what happened here, and step two is using our voice for truth, because the 24-hour news cycle has forgotten about Hawaii. But what I see here, was this a blueprint maybe for an evil and nefarious plan? Yes, but we could use this as a blueprint for freedom and how we get away from these evil thugs. And Hawaii is, imagine what happens when you throw a rock into the middle of the lake. It reverberates to every single edge. And that's what's happening here in Hawaii, is we are the little island in the middle of the ocean, and everything that happens here is going to reverberate all around the world. And that's why they chose here. This is the energetic place to if you were maybe an evil person, maybe you would choose this place for a reason, because you know of the energy and the power here. But
it ain't gonna work.
it's not going to
gonna
work, because
backfire.
we're going to use that
Right.
energy and that power for truth and light, and we're going to say, we see what you did here, and we say absolutely no to your mass murder through disaster capitalism.
Right.
And the time is now, and it's our time, and your time is over. And so really, you know, it's so hard. How do you support Lahaina in this time? You know, financially, yes. Knowledge, yes. Just use your voice. What is going on? You know, this is our town, our place, our people. But like we said, this could be anywhere, anytime, any person. So we have an incentive as as citizens of the earth, that we don't want to be burned into and herded and out of our homes and our stability and our livelihoods. They will stop at nothing. And people have been, when there's not a fair playing ground, we've used fire since the beginning of time. Since biblical times, we've been burning each other out of civilizations because that's all we can do. And they know that we're winning and that the consciousness of everyone is awakening.
Waking up.
And they're going, what are we going to do?
Right.
Let's burn them.
They're getting desperate.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
desperation.
Yeah.
So just remember, even though it feels like we are not winning this war or this battle, we are. And that's why they're so scared of us.
Yeah.
They're using fire
We're coming.
against us.
We're coming.
We're coming.
Yeah.
And we're not going to stop.
Yeah.
Your time is over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yeah, they messed with the wrong island.
that's right.
Yeah, they
Or-
did.
Or Jack Nicholson said, "You f with the wrong
Yeah.
marine."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's statistically impossible, the
Right.
number that they have made up. It's too low. It's not realistic. It's impossible. The number of children, statistically impossible. So I just implore people to trust that they were given a gift with knowledge, and knowledge is power. And if they can speak, their neighbor will speak, and their other neighbor will speak. And if we all band together, they can't take us all down at once, and we might make enough headway for the world to say, that doesn't add up. What really happened? How can we help Maui? And mostly I see that Maui definitely needs help with these mortgage payments. Or they won't be fighting over whose land it is anyway, because it will be taken. And Lahaina had all of its quirky characters, and it made it cool. It made it fun.
Yeah.
It made it a funny little island in the middle of nowhere. And
With
I'd
a lot
hate
of
to
amazing people, a
Yeah.
lot of intellectual
Lot of
people,
beautiful-
gifted
yeah.
people,
Yes.
artists, musicians,
Yes.
just this melting pot
Yes.
of like
I never
amazingness, right?
I never knew that coming from Idaho. And then I was like just bombarded with it, and I was like, this is so amazing.
That's what I mean. They messed with the wrong island.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you,
yeah,
they have
yeah.
no chance, right?
Yeah.
You try to shoot an arrow into the heart,
Yeah.
it ain't gonna work, man. You
Yeah.
picked the wrong place.
That's
That's
right.
just what I felt that from the
Yeah.
very beginning.
Yeah.
I really did. I thought
Yeah.
to myself, you know what? We were gonna be an example
We saw that with you.
of how to handle this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
We love you
We'll be an
for everything
example.
you've done. We really believe in
Well, I
you.
love you guys for writing this book.
We're so
I'm-
grateful to you for
You're-
having
you were
a
the
platform in this
inspiration,
place.
truly, and you know, like for everybody who
You were in
if
our
you wonder
household
what's
every
in the
day.
book, a lot
Yeah.
of it,
We
a
had-
lot of
yeah,
it is
I talked
Eric.
a
We
lot
were so
about
glad
it.
she came, because we were like, we
I
felt
could
like
not
we knew
stop
you through
talking
Lani.
about you.
Yeah. She's your. We could have a T-shirt that says "I'm Eric West, #1 cheerleader."
I know.
Yeah. I'm gonna make it.
All the time.
But now you can see what together we can all do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
we feed off of each other,
Yes,
and
we
like
do.
everybody
Yes.
has a place and a
Mhm.
position and a job.
Yep.
And if everyone just prays and
Yep.
listens to God, He'll
Yep.
tell them what to do,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then it'll all work.
And
It'll
we'll
all
be
just like
divinely
this
protected
perfect,
together.
Yeah.
Yep.
perfect thing that happens exactly when it's supposed to, with the perfect timing. And everyone that listens to this, I think, should just say a prayer in their
Yeah,
heart and should just say,
absolutely.
what should I be doing? What's my next step? And
Yeah.
then just follow that.
And first
we're-
of all, make
and
sure
we're-
they find the
And we're all a
That's
neighbor.
right.
We're all a neighbor to
Promoting.
someone. Well, also we can help back Lani, and we'll help the community, and it has a resource for every single person in the book to help them as well. There's a link to their actual original Venmos and all that stuff for
Okay.
every single person in the chapters.
It's actually
So-
all well, and thanks to your help, a lot of the whole entire book is cited and sourced, and so yeah, when you're reading a testimony in here, you can go back and watch your original video
Mhm.
Wow.
and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
who it belonged to, or
Yeah.
find the story it came. It's definitely more of a dissertation, kind of a textbook of information, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the evidence that people need. We need this, and
Right.
you know, and I truly thank you. I mean, your evidence is through here
And-
just significantly because it was going to go untold. If you hadn't have done that, no one else was going to.
Yeah,
It's
we
truly
totally
Yeah.
agree.
The
That's
world
so
has
true.
changed because of what
Yeah,
you
We
brought
think
to
Yeah.
us,
good for
and
you.
I really believe that. And now it's our part to share that even further, and then somebody else is going to share that even further.
Yeah.
And like we just said, all the pieces of the puzzle will come together to paint the bigger
Yeah.
picture. We just
Right.
don't know what everybody's puzzle piece is
Yeah.
yet.
And people have a right to grieve. They have a right to talk to their neighbor. They have a right to be hugged and loved, and they're allowed. They have the right as a human being to share what happened to them. It's not. It should not. It's not punishable.
Right.
Your story is,
Right.
And
yours.
It's not a
and
narrative that somebody else
Yeah.
can tell you
Yeah,
didn't
don't-
happen.
If
Right.
it was your
Yeah.
child or your grandchild, you would never shut them up. You would never tell them to stop asking questions.
And we have freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Last time
we
I
thought
checked,
so.
We
We
thought
thought
so.
so.
We
Yeah.
thought so.
And if we don't now, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe that this is a very good barometer for the future of freedom of speech. Yeah,
Now we can see how important it is. If that's one thing that this has awakened me in,
yeah,
is our civic responsibilities,
absolutely.
how the system works, what's important, what are your rights. I mean, if anything, it should inspire people to get educated in that department, start researching on your own, FOIA, and the ways you can just use the system, affidavits. I mean, different things that you can do as a citizen.
If every single person that was listening to this bombarded those systems,
Right.
it would actually impact. It would have an impact.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'll put a link in the description of a Google spreadsheet
Great.
that we've created that has
Perfect.
got all the different entities
Amazing.
and phone numbers
Yes.
and email addresses for all the different
Yeah.
organizations and government organizations on Maui that you can
Right.
start to reach out to. You can submit UIP FOIA requests. You can complain. You can submit affidavits. You can write your congressman. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on of what everybody could do.
Yeah.
The question is what will they do, and will
Right.
they help?
Exactly.
And I
When
believe
you-
once you get this in your spirit,
Yeah.
once you get this in your heart, it won't leave you alone.
No, it
it literally won't leave you
No.
alone.
No.
It won't.
You'll
No,
lie.
yeah.
You'll lie in bed thinking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't
Like
stop.
we do.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mystery novel, and you want to get to the end of it,
Yeah.
right? But you know you're in the mystery novel.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you are
exactly.
uncovering things, you are doing things that are
Yeah.
important, you're writing history
Yeah.
by doing your little part, whatever
Yeah.
it is, and
Yeah.
it'll just it gives you, it's like a good mission. It's like a great reason to be alive because
It is.
God is going to use us for the next generation. So if you don't do it
We
for
100%
yourself,
believe that.
you don't do it for yourself. You do, but you do it more so for the keiki, for the next generation, for the
Absolutely.
kids, for the future of our country.
Exactly.
And someday we're all going to be dead,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a fact.
Yep.
We're all going to die.
I'd go out. I'd go
Right.
out in the honor of this. Honestly,
Yeah.
speaking the truth.
I can
making-
tell that you guys would.
The
Yeah.
battles.
Yeah.
The moment you put yourself out there,
Yeah.
you've
Right.
entered the ranks of
We have.
the courageous that are willing to die for something, because that's truly what could happen. And by the way, none of us will ever commit suicide, right?
Never.
That's correct.
That would never happen.
We love our
Never.
lives. Yeah,
we love our lives.
Yes.
We're gonna go on record to say that,
Yeah.
right?
Healthy,
Yes.
thriving,
Right.
Yeah.
happy.
We are not on drugs, alcohol, and we love our life. And if
Right.
any
Yeah,
of
we
these
don't
things
do
happen
any
to
of
us,
that.
Investigate.
yeah,
Right.
please investigate.
Right. We still drink coffee. That's
Oh, but we love coffee.
It's just you never thought in America you'd have to say those things, right?
It's true.
Serious.
But
And-
it's true.
And
It's true.
I even actually wrote it. I'm already
Wow.
on the list. So if so be it, I will stay on that list and I will keep fighting until the end because
She tells me
these
it's
battles.
because
Yeah, the battles we don't fight
she'll
today
leave
will
them
be
for her
the children.
my grandchildren.
I don't want them to grow up in a life fighting for.
And our
For this.
forefathers fought for us,
Yes.
right? Our whole country was
Yes.
founded on people that
Right.
fought.
Yeah,
Freedom
for their
has
freedom.
to be
Yeah.
fought
Right.
for. And
So if you just
maintained.
live in the benefit of freedom, well, at some point you might be called on to fight for that freedom. And if
That's
you
right.
don't, then you really shouldn't have the benefit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't.
Exactly.
If you're not willing to fight for something, then
hallelujah.
right,
Yeah.
you need to you got to do the work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. You don't have to go like die on a battlefield, but there's things that you could do that could make a huge difference that won't necessarily cost your life, but in the end, it could cost someone's life if you don't do it.
Correct.
Ask yourself this question. In a wildfire, does anyone need to sign an NDA in a normal circumstance of a natural disaster? My answer is unequivocally no. It's no. It doesn't add up. And the coincidences are absurd.
Right.
It's absurd.
It's
I'm not highly
statistically
educated.
Impossible.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
Right.
not highly educated, but coincidences, it's absurdity. Yeah. And we're not all ignorant, and we're all smart enough, and we all truly do know what's going on, and we just have to have the voices.
Right. We got to come together.
Yeah.
We have to be brave and show other people that you can step into this as well. And we're here for you.
Right.
It might feel scary and you might be ostracized and you might feel alone. but we're here for you, and there's so many more people there for you than you even imagine.
People need to be able to, in the call to action, if you've lost someone, if you know someone, if you've lost a neighbor, if you haven't seen the mailman, if you haven't seen auntie or uncle without a name, you know, put them, let's get a list going, for the, you know, we don't know yet. Who are those people and where are they?
If you're someone that wants to come on the channel and tell your story, if you are
Yeah.
a boat captain that was called on to pull bodies from the water, if you're
Whatever.
Whistleblowers.
whistleblowers,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
that work for the government,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
you need to step forward, or you have a place to step forward.
Absolutely.
We obviously love you to, but
Yes.
you know, come.
Yeah, where did,
Silence is
who cleaned up the
compliance.
bodies in the water? That's a big question. Because we didn't see any military. So this has to come down to our local people did the cleanups. And so they're here with us now, and they're amongst us at the grocery store, suffering in silence for us. I mean, something that's, I'm sure, haunting them.
It's a war crime
And-
that civilians had to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Where
so,
was the
Please
military?
come forward.
yeah,
Come forward.
thanks, yeah.
Well, I think we've had a good little session here, and I thank you guys so
Yeah.
much.
So
for-
grateful.
No, we thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, we
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, we really love you and we pray for you and support
Thank you.
you.
And
Thank
your
you for
family.
thank you for staying steadfast and on the staying with it. It's very, very hard,
Yeah.
and nobody understands the amount of time and energy your family has to give to it, and it has its own life, and there's nothing you can do about it other than continue or give up. And so you've chosen the path of righteousness, and for that I'm very grateful to know you and be in your home, and have you show this kindness to my daughter and love for Lani and myself, and I'm just very grateful.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
And,
You're part of our Ohana.
Yeah.
well, it's a privilege and an honor to do it. Honestly, it is, and it has been difficult, but not
Yes.
that difficult. Nothing compared to what these people have been through.
That's
Right.
right.
Exactly.
That's right. We're
There's
here.
Nothing.
And that's why we're
Right.
And
strong
anyone
enough
who has
to do
survivor
something.
guilt,
Yeah.
please don't have survivor guilt, because you'll be able to puzzle piece the stories together
Mhm.
that we need to then give honor to the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
And to figure it out, just
Yes.
like when fish stepped
Yes.
forward, right? Fish
exactly.
Yes.
showed up like accidentally on a live at
Right.
the very end. I was just getting ready to sign off. I was
Mhm.
like 2 seconds away from see you guys.
Mhm.
Fish shows up and he drops the bomb like you
Yeah.
couldn't get out of Lahaina that the
Yeah.
police were
Right.
blocking. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like
All of
I
that
didn't know that.
Mhm.
I wasn't in Lahaina,
Right.
and that literally opened up the gateway, the floodgates
yes.
for a small amount of information to start getting out.
Yeah.
Nothing like what we needed.
I
right?
think that's
But
what
still,
happened to Lani and I too. Being that we were there, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee the people. You can't not see what was going on, and it becomes a part of you. Where if we had just seen it in a distance on the TV, we had never been to Lahaina, didn't understand Front Street, you could make a new perspective and gloss
Right.
over it.
Being in it was so like devastating to us. We could not like explain it to people. I mean, we tried to, but people didn't.
We
believe
literally
us. Yeah.
called each other as many times as a
Times as
day,
possible.
per day, to just check in to see how we were feeling, per hour if we wanted to, because it was like there's sadness, there's anger, there's shock, and there's just there's fear, there's just like a confusion, but it's a real thing. It has a life of its own, and I just hope that people do get to speak to people, and that they are finding people to talk to, because what they went through is horrific in my book.
Yeah,
And our stories are very minimal compared to some of the things I've heard about the one father that was trying to help his wife get out of Lahaina, and he was trying to help talk her through going over the power line or whatever. Fire engulfed her. He literally was on the phone and listened. I don't know how they had phone service, but he heard his children and wife burned to death while he was on the phone with them. He's since committed suicide. And then there's a Red Cross guy who's committed suicide in Wailea. Red Cross. I mean, there's people that are. This is just disgusting stuff that we don't want to talk about. And I don't know if you had heard about how people were able to call out to the mainland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you call the mainland, but you couldn't call
Right.
people with on
I
the
thought that
island.
was super fascinating as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just the fact that all that time I was always able to receive text messages. Personally, on my T-Mobile for 3 weeks,
What?
I could receive text messages. I couldn't send, but I could always receive.
Mm-hmm.
And we also got an Amber Alert the day after the fire to not go on the highway because there was an
That's
accident.
right.
Yeah.
I'm
I got that one
I
too.
You
remember.
can send out an
That
Amber
freaked
Alert the
me out.
next day.
That freaked
Yeah.
me out.
You couldn't send out an Amber Alert
Yeah.
during the fire.
Exactly.
Right.
The fact that there was no warning, no water, police blockades, the fact that there's a fire that started in all these different areas. I mean, I'm taking drone footage right now showing like how did the fire get to Waikuli? I'm getting eyewitness accounts of it just.
In that 14th chapter, he says the fire wasn't even in his area.
Right.
2 minutes later,
It's
it's
on top
on
of
his
it.
building, and his neighbor, and he goes to the neighbor's door. He knocks on the door. We've got to go. Neighbor says, I'm not leaving. I have 5 cats in here. Closes the door, and he says he runs away, watching his neighbor, his best, very good friend, burning up.
Yeah.
There's so many stories like that.
Stories you don't know.
There's just
The fact that you couldn't come to Lahaina for weeks after the fire, there was no media that was allowed in, there was no supplies you could bring
Yeah.
in, they build a fence, you can't fly a drone over for weeks.
can't
and-
ask about children.
I mean, it just
Can't
goes on
ask
and on and
about
on. The
that.
list is so
Yeah.
long, and that's why when I read this book, I was like, this is the first document that I read
Yeah.
that kind of, it's like the tip of the iceberg still, I'm
Yeah.
sure, but it gives you all of the components of questions and not necessarily a lot of answers, but certainly it tells you in one succinct place what happened and what we're dealing with. But it's so complicatedly crazy
Yeah.
that this is the first place where you go, yep, and it's like, you've really done a great job in just kind of putting it out there so that people can understand. Even we that live here and
Right.
experienced it, we still have pieces of it. But
Yeah.
this is such a
100%.
great
Thank
job
you.
of like
She-
putting it all out there so people can start asking the real questions, because that's what needs to happen. We don't need to
Yeah.
wait for
Yeah.
20 years from now
Yeah.
they make
Yeah.
a documentary about it,
Right.
and then they do an investigation and they seal all the
Yeah.
the findings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's not
maybe
gonna-
if Paradise, California had been, if their books had been done
Right.
and the evidence had been compiled, maybe there wouldn't have
Right.
been a Maui Lahaina.
Right, but even right now, there's
Yeah.
evidence that's on the ground.
Right.
Right now,
Yeah.
right now,
Right.
I'm flying a drone over the area, and you're seeing stuff that is important. Right, so
Oh, yeah.
every day the crime scene gets eroded. Every
right.
day things are being moved and removed. So right now, things need to happen. You can't wait 6 months or a year or 2 years. Things need to
No.
happen now.
That was what that
Absolutely.
48-year arborist said. He said, the evidence will be being removed in front of your eyes.
Right.
Look everywhere. It's right there. And I think that soil tack was just the key, because soil tack was used to clean up radiation in Iraq, and now it's being used. I called it soul tack, the glue that would tack down the soles and then remove the evidence. I remember listening to this EPA guy talk about it, and he said, "Oh, it'll be fine. You just have to wash your hands, and if it's in your eye, you just have to do it. 20-minute eye rinse out, and blah blah blah." And then I saw somebody's video of them finding a photograph, their last remaining photograph of their family, and I was thinking about the glue that would be on that, and that they wouldn't be able to wash that item. And so I just thought, this is such just garbage crap. But that soil tack, I find it just fascinating that it was nearly mandatory, even though they would allow, you could opt out, but only if in 120 square feet, I'm not exactly sure, but
No one's allowed to opt out of soil
No,
tax.
No,
the
yeah,
homeowners
yeah,
I
I was
talked to,
gonna
they
say
weren't
no.
even notified. They
They
weren't
just showed
notified,
up and
yeah.
started spraying. Some people were actually on their property when they started spraying it.
really?
When I interviewed Nuku, they showed up right when we were doing the interview on his
Holy
property and we had to
moly.
leave.
Yeah.
So there was no consent, there was no disclosure, there was no nothing. They just
I just
came
call
and
that
did it.
evidence,
Even
just
Cheney,
evidence,
they just went and
tampering,
did it too.
evidence tampering, honestly.
The whole thing
Never
has been
used
from
soil
square one.
tack for a wildfire before. That's never been.
And
its
they
use.
ironically used it up in Kula as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was also kind of interesting because there's no run. I mean, well, the water's bad up there now, but
It just
it's
goes on
never
and
been
on.
used. It's never been used around a body of water. And as a lover of the whales and the ecosystem, I have heard there's some whales returning, but I will be curious to see how this season with births of whale babies, how that will play out. What has happened to the shore, I have no idea, or the ocean itself, I have no idea. But I can imagine we all collectively could have come up with a couple of other ideas prior to glue being the option. Just believe that we weren't allowed anything. Everything's been ramrodded down your throat.
Right.
And that's just to cover up. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We super appreciate it. We love you to
Thank you
support
all.
Lonnie. And of course, I'll put a link to Amazon where you can buy the Burn Back Better Lahaina, A Perfect Storm or A Perfect Crime. And we would definitely appreciate you buying one for yourself, for your neighbors, for sharing the link, for sharing the video, for sharing. Just share, because that's the key,
share.
right?
Yeah.
It's like the exponential growth that can come from just sharing with one person.
Yeah.
And putting it on your Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok, your LinkedIn, your text messages, your email.
Yeah.
It just goes on and on. That's the one thing that we have today is this ability to communicate with each other fairly effortlessly, right? So just be a digital warrior. Click,
Digital
click,
warrior.
click until your fingers bleed, right?
Never
You
heard
are
that
the most
before.
you are the most aloha infused audience
Yeah.
on planet
I
Earth.
love this guy.
Prove it to them. Prove it to them. I know you will. I know you will. And
Thanks, everyone.
You can see we have found the tip of the spear right here. This is the tip of the spear. I don't care what you say.
Let's get them.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the tip of the spear. So this,
They didn't want her to write this book, I can tell you that.
Just like they didn't want Eric to make those videos. And
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
why we put his
Yeah.
in here. We didn't want this to be forgotten.
Right,
So
thank
Yeah.
you.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah.
You're the tip of the
Yeah.
spear.
Yeah.
We are the tip of the
We're
spear.
the spear.
Right?
Yeah.
We are the
You
spear.
are the spear. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you guys are the force behind the spear
Yeah.
because you're going to pick up the spear and you're going to cast it into the universe. Thank you. And we will do this for the future of Lahaina. We'll do it for the keiki. We'll do it for the survivors, for the
Yes.
victims.
Yes.
We'll do it for as
Justice.
citizens of the world because this isn't just a problem here, man. This is a problem
We're all one,
everywhere.
everybody.
That's right.
We're all one.
This is not just a Maui
Every
thing.
brother, every sister, we're all one.
That's right.
This is real.
And if you
Yeah.
mess with aloha will fight back. I don't care what anybody says. And what
Aloha.
can we tell them your
So,
can you tell them your
yeah,
title?
it's
Is it
well,
okay?
it's actually
so good.
Gary's. It's Gary's.
Gary
new-
Savage.
So
the
Gary
artist.
Savage.
the artist in front of
Fleetwood's.
Fleetwood's, where you guys
Yeah.
used to work.
Yep.
That's right.
He's gonna have. I will find his link, but he made up a T-shirt.
It's
It's
very
the
good.
coolest one I've ever heard.
All right,
He
you
was
guys are
at-
gonna love this.
He was at Ace Hardware and he was hugging some folks after he lost his home and ended up in the ocean that night.
Did
and
you
he's-
really? Wow.
Yeah, and he said, "Aloha is IZ fireproof," and we're proving that right now.
That's right.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
And
Me
for,
too.
tho-
It's so
for those
beautiful.
for those of you that don't know, obviously is sings the song
Yeah.
"Somewhere Over the Rainbow." So aloha is IZ
Yeah,
fireproof. So that's
yeah.
awesome.
We should end on that. That's perfect.
That's a very good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Much
Thank you.
aloha.
God bless. Thank you.
Until
Thanks,
next
everyone.
time, we
Yeah.
shall return.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Take care, guys. Bye bye.